Hey there, Joylyn here from Intention Tarot. Today is the first day of Leo season. So Leo season is going to go from today, July 23rd, through August 22nd, and then we enter the sign of Virgo. But I kind of just wanted to do a reading to pull and see what you can expect during the next month or so, the next 30 days roughly, of Leo season. So I'm using a few different decks today. I'll just kind of point these out, which ones they are. I'm also going to put links in the information section down below. I'll briefly mention the crystals, and then we'll start picking our piles. So this first deck I have here is called the Mystic Rebel Oracle deck. Very bright, very fun, has some cool imagery. And I kind of felt like this really fit the mood of Leo energy. A lot of these decks too I picked because they either had something to do with sunlight or radiance or just had that big Leo energy. The next Oracle deck is the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. This one is really interesting. It has a lot of planetary associations on here, some interesting images as well. Plus the backs have that really cool sun on there, so I felt like it fit. Our first tarot deck, this is the Retro Poster Tarot deck. This is a recent deck that I picked up. It's all based on different images of what looks like movie posters. I thought it was kind of cool. Very big, very bold as far as imagery. So I felt like it fit our Leo theme today. This next one is called Lucid Dreams, and it's actually a beginner tarot deck. So it does have keywords on here. I don't know if you can see it. There's some keywords on the top for either upright or reverse positions. It also has some different astrological or alchemical associations on the card itself. But I do like the images. I also like that it's made by Saint Soleil, and Soleil is sun. It also has the sun on here. So again, I kind of just felt drawn towards this one, that it really fit what we were going for in this Leo season theme. And this last one, I'm going to use this one more as like a surprise piece of advice, kind of at the end of each of our pile readings. This is the White Light Oracle. Again, white light, lots of brightness in this deck. And it also just has these kind of bizarre images. Some of them are mythological. They come from different mythological traditions. So we'll be using, whoa, it's a cat. Kind of like our lion for Leo. So I'll use this one, like I said, at the very end of each reading, just as a capper, a piece of advice, a takeaway, what have you. And for our crystals, pile number 1, it's going to be sodalite. I intuitively pick these before each of these readings. Kind of show you that a little bit. It's got this blue and white color in there. This middle stone is called goldstone. It's really vivid orange, and it has these little flecks of gold in there. It kind of looks like it's laced with glitter. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but very pretty. And this last one is aragonite. I just kind of like that it has sort of these pieces bursting out, kind of like a sunburst. So I was really drawn towards this one today for pile number 3. Okay, so there you have it. I'm going to get into the pile picking. If you've never done a pick a pile read before, this is just a quick tip. I'm going to pull from each of these decks and form 3 different piles. I'll put one under each crystal here. Whichever one you feel the most drawn to, whether that's 1, 2, or 3, you can go ahead and jump to that reading. I'm going to timestamp it so that you know where to pick up. If you feel drawn to one or more of the piles, even if you want to watch the readings for all 3, that's totally fine. Whatever calls to you is kind of how this works. Also, pick a pile readings are very generalized. If you do want something that's more specific to what you're going through and tailored advice just for you, do check out my website. You can book a one-on-one reading with me there, and we can do a more direct, personalized reading for you. So, okay, here we go. I'm going to start picking the piles. All right, the first deck I'm going to start with is this Mystic Rebel Oracle deck. And let's see what piles number 1, 2, and 3 can expect for the next 30 days of Leo season. field that one, this one, and shuffle a little bit more. That one is standing out to me. Okay. Next we have our Oracle of the Radiant Sun. It's smaller cards, but there are a lot of cards in this deck. I think it's even more than a traditional tarot deck. So it's a little funky to try and shuffle. Doing the best I can here. Feels like number 1. Number 2. And number 3. Okay. The next is our Retro Poster Tarot. And I did have 2 tarot decks that I had pulled for today's reading. The Lucid Dreams one, I think I'm going to use that more as like a clarifying deck as we go. But your initial tarot cards, I'm going to pull 3 of them for each pile. 1, 2, 3. One, 2, and 3. Okay, pile number 3. What can you expect for Leo season? Let's find out. Oh, 1. Got 2 more. Got 2 and 3. Okay, like I said, I'm gonna use this Lucid Dreams deck. I'll just show it to you again. This one will be more of like our clarifying deck as we go. If we need to add a little bit more advice, we have that one handy. But I'm not gonna pull anything right now just yet. The last one, this was our piece of advice for the very end, our capper on the reading. This is the White Light Oracle. This one is just falling out, so I'm gonna stick it there. And let's get 2 more, 1 for each pile. What can piles number 2 and 3 expect from Leo season? 2 and 3. Okay. Just to give you a little bit of an extra visual, I'm going to kind of position these so each pile looks a little different, even though they have the same cards, the same number of cards anyway, and same decks. I kind of like that. Give you a little visual to go off of. If you're somebody who's drawn to visuals when you're picking a pile, it sometimes helps to have it look a little different from the other piles. So we'll just kind of help you out with that. And this last one, kind of like just putting the sunburst here. We'll put that with our little Aragonite sunburst as well. Okay, so you've got piles 1, 2, and 3. If you feel particularly drawn, again, to one of these, go ahead and jump to that timestamp. You can watch just that reading. Feel free to watch all 3. You can watch 2 of the readings if you want to. It's really whatever calls to you. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, pile number 1. If you've not ever sat through a reading with me before or seen any of my other pick-a-pile readings, I always start with the crystal. The reason I do that is the crystal has certain properties for which it's used. A lot of times if you're somebody who's familiar with Reiki or energy healing, or you just like crystals in general, kind of like I do, crystals have certain qualities or, again, like things that they're used to heal or target in your life. And so I always feel like when people pick a pile, a lot of times they pick a pile based on the crystal, and there's a reason for that. The crystal has something to do with why you were drawn towards this particular pile. And so sodalite, the one that I picked for pile number 1, is really great for balancing the logical mind with your intuition or your feeling body. So already this is telling me that there's some kind of disconnect between what you logically know and what you feel you should do or what you are doing through your body. That there's something that seems like it's not quite connected there. Also, this draws on higher wisdom a lot of times to rewrite old patterns. So if you have an old way of being or thinking or habits that maybe you inherited from family or friends growing up, that this stone makes it a little bit easier to break those up and learn to do things differently. So again, connecting mind and heart together, bringing in new information or new ways of being, and being able to overcome old patterns. So already we've got a little bit of a theme there. I'm just going to tuck our crystal off to the side, up top. And where do you want to start? I'm going to start with this oracle card first, which is Rebellion. Mars in Aquarius. Aquarians are interesting people. They can be kind of oddballs. They tend to do things differently or see things differently in such a way that they're like almost ahead of their time. And Mars can also be conflictual or like going out to battle for something, standing up for what you believe in, how you approach problems. And so this rebellion here, it's kind of like these establishment figures off to the side. I mean, they've got some kind of helmet on or like official gear that they're wearing. And this person is just dressed a little more casually, kind of in rags and coming at them with a sword, but coming at them in their mind. So again, I think there's a way of thinking, if we're going back to our sodalite piece here, there's a way of thinking for you that's being confronted. And I'm looking at this number. I don't know if you can see that. There's this number 11 at the top, which 11 in numerology is a master number. It can be reduced down to a 2 as well, which is kind of how I'm seeing it, that there's a 2 because you see these 2 figures here and a 2 with those 2 ones next to each other. But there's something to be overcome. I think because this is also a master number, that number 11, there's a breaking of a pattern and you're entering something new as far as the way that you're thinking about things. So interesting. Those two kind of connect, our crystal and our first oracle card. Let's look at the next one. Oh, this is interesting because this one, I was actually, when I was picking out the decks, this one stood out to me as I was kind of browsing through. And I think this is actually one of the first cards that was sitting on the top of the deck before we even started shuffling and picking. But expanding your perspective, and I mean, we're already talking about, again, changing ways of thinking, connecting your intuition and what you feel with what you know to be true through the sodalite crystal. And so expanding your perspective. There's definitely something going on here with thinking beyond what's already been done. So I think that there's maybe some people who have advice for you or the way that they've always done it, and you kind of need to do something different, especially with this rebellion. I feel like you're sort of making your own way, you're making your own path and deciding how you're going to do things. And that might be really unique and different from what everyone else is doing. It might be like you need to have your own configuration that works specific to your situation. And it isn't really anything that's been done before. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here with expand your perspective. This one we're saving to last. That'll be our little surprise piece of advice. Let's look at your tarot cards here, pile number 1. I'm going to look at this one first. The ace, number 1. I kind of want to look at it first. And let's set these here. Move these down so they're not getting so much glare from that light. Okay, so you've got the Ace of Swords, Queen of Pentacles, and the Two of Pentacles. Interesting. I mean, the Ace of Swords fits already with what we're seeing with expand your perspective and this rebellion card, that there's some mental clarity. And that's another thing. I mean, that's the first word on top of here, mental clarity. But there's another thing about sodalite is that it can really clarify the mind. That if you're kind of feeling cloudy or don't know what to do or confused about something, this stone can help. And that's immediately what I thought when I looked at this card and saw that mental clarity keyword at the top, is that there's something with this sword, and it's like cutting through the brain fog, cutting through any of the clutter that's in your mind, and trying to get like to the heart of whatever is going on. So this could be like a sudden flash of insight, or that you're just confused right now and you're really feeling like you need to cut through that and just like forge a path, is the first phrase that comes to mind. Is like you've got to forge your own path. And so you're almost like the next image that comes up for me with this ace is that you're almost like using that sword to cut through all of the underbrush, like cutting through everything that's in the way. So again, like everything that's already there, that's already been established, you need to cut a different path and go in your own direction, is what I'm feeling off of this Ace of Swords. And I set these two here because I feel like this ace was really singular and wanted to be on its own. But I also feel like there's a balance here, especially with this Two of Pentacles, which is typically always a card that's about balancing or learning to like juggle different priorities. It's making me think that this is like two sides of a balance, that like you've got the fulcrum here and here's the two sides of this balance. And this Queen of Pentacles, it's funny because the first thought that came to mind was mommy issues. But it might be around the way that you perceive caring for others or being helpful to people. Is that the Queen of Pentacles, she's very resourceful, but also very much a figure that is always thinking about the material needs of the situation. Like, who needs more food? Do you need more water? Like, we got to take care of the laundry, sort of thing. And so there is a dark side to that, in that this figure, this type of person, and the way that they're behaving in the world, it can be overkill. It can be like you're doing too much of those things for other people. Like you're attempting to over meet their needs. It's not just like doing the basics. You're trying to like do it all. And physically, that's really demanding. Like that's exhausting, honestly, to constantly be a caretaker for everyone else. And again, like the Queen of Pentacles can be a very nurturing, very kind, very protective kind of mother, and taking care of all those day-to-day needs. But if she's also not taking care of herself, or trying to take care of people too much and not allowing them their own independence to do that for themselves, it can really quickly lead to exhaustion. And I feel like that's maybe is what is happening here. Is there's a pattern which might be built around your own relationship with your mother or people that you grew up with, is that to care for someone means dropping everything and doing everything for everyone all the time. And it's not necessarily true. I feel like there is a better path forward, especially since you're being asked here to expand your perspective, think about things differently, figure out what's right for you and how that might look for you, which could be totally different than how your mother did it or your grandmother did it, or even your best friend. If you're looking at one of your friends and thinking, oh my gosh, like she does it all, or this person like seems to be managing everything so well, why can't I do it? I think that comparison needs to stop. I'm thinking again of the number 2 here and also the number 2 here, that when the number 2 shows up, sometimes there can be like a comparison factor. Like we're trying to compare between two things. And so I think that you're comparing yourself a little too much and not recognizing that your path is unique and that it's going to be like your own thing. It's definitely not going to be the same as everyone else. The Two of Pentacles, we have this like juggling here. which I might be trying to decide like which one of these things is more important, because I do see that like this, hold this up a little closer. This ball that he has over here versus this one is smaller, one is bigger. And so it might be trying to like balance needs and figuring out which one of these is more important than the other. The word multitasking stood out here, and so maybe that's a clue, is that if you are being asked to multitask or to try to do multiple things at once, it's like pick your priority. Like if this one is bigger and more important, do that one first and leave the other things, to come out however they will. Maybe you don't get to those, or maybe you get to them much later than you thought you would, but that's fine. The most important thing has already been taken care of. I kind of want a little more clarity on what this is related to, because you have two pentacles, you have the Queen of Pentacles and the Two of Pentacles here. Ace of Swords, I feel like there's a lot of thought and material stuff going on. I don't know if this is career or if this is maybe home related. It could be both. But let's just pull one more tarot card and kind of see what this is. Oh, Three of Cups. So the Three of Cups. Again, I'm loving, I noticed that today I totally forgot that this retro poster tarot had the keywords on here. I was expecting it from the Lucid Dreams deck, because it is a beginner deck, that it has these keywords along the top. But I'm actually really loving it. Sometimes the keywords kind of cloud the intuition, sometimes they help, but the word circle of support jumped out here. And I also thought of friends, that I think maybe within your circle of friends or family that you're not getting the support that you want. And so I think this is definitely home related. I think it has to do with like your familial relation. So everything that's going on in family or home right now, but also it might be like within your network of support. So if there's friends or neighbors, people around you, I don't think you're getting the support that you're expecting. And I'm noticing, just as I was saying that, this kind of cloud of fire around this person is jumping out to me. And Mars is very fiery. And I also saw that on this card, it was Mars in Aquarius. So we've got this Mars sign down here. And the feeling of like, I mean, rage is the word that comes up, that there's like this burning rage. And I think it might be tied to the fact that you don't feel like you're getting the support that you would expect. And that makes you really angry. And the thing that I'll say about anger is that anger shows up when your boundaries have been violated. So it's like a pushing back, it's a fighting against whatever it is that's continuing to overstep those boundaries. And so it's bringing me back to this Queen of Pentacles card, that if you feel angry or feel enraged, you can't always force other people to show up for you in the way that you need them to, but you can set better boundaries for yourself so that you're taken care of, so that your feelings are a lot calmer, so that you feel like you have what you need. And then whatever is left over, that you can give away to other people. Like if you're giving away to other people first and not making sure that you're taken care of, it doesn't work. Like that's not a boundary that's going to continue to work for you. So I do think there's some rethinking that needs to happen. And this is unique to every person. I feel like I should say that too. So again, this feeling I got with the Expand Your Perspective Oracle card, that this is something that you're going to have to figure out, and it might be totally unique, just like this Aquarius energy down here. It might seem odd to other people. It might seem like, oh, like, why are you doing it that way? Whatever makes sense for you is how it needs to be done. And so don't question that. I would just continue to move forward along the path of whatever seems like it's working for you. And I think when you do that, like when you're making sure that you're taken care of, that this rage calms down a little bit, and then you start getting more of the support that you need, because it might be this underlying anger that's actually driving people away. And that's what anger does. Like I said, it shows up when the boundaries have been violated. So if you're needing to firm up the boundaries and you're doing that through anger and rage, it's going to naturally push people back until they get to the proper boundary level. So some of the reason that you might not have the support that you want with this Three of Cups is because of your own rage. And so once you learn to like take care of yourself to the point that that rage and that anger calms down, I think people start to come back around. It's not that they don't want to help you. I think that they're just a little afraid of how you might respond, or that they might upset you, because you are in a little bit of a fragile place right now, is the sense that I'm getting, that you're not taking care of these feelings enough, or these needs, your physical needs enough, to be in that right state of mind, to stay calm and to feel happy most of the time and only get angry occasionally. I think that since that's not happening, this feeling of anger is pervasive, and it's just kind of permeating into everything that you're doing and affecting you adversely. Okay, we have the surprise advice card for the end. So let's pull that out and see what it is. Lasya of Parvati. So if you don't know Parvati, Parvati is actually a Hindu god, I believe, or goddess, I believe. And she's the wife of Shiva. So Shiva does this dance. I'll just touch briefly on this. He does this dance, but it's like really wild and passionate and energetic. And Lasya is actually the dance of his wife Parvati. And Lasya is a much gentler way. So Parvati is kind of the calming energy to Shiva's explosiveness. And the fact that it's Lasya, it's her dance in particular, is also drawing me again to this Two of Pentacles. Which in a traditional Rider-Waite deck, the Two of Pentacles, it's almost like this person is doing a balancing act, and they're very carefully and slowly moving forward as they're trying to balance these two things. And it's a slow process. It's not like you'll be able to juggle these things easily or manage these two aspects of yourself very easily. But I think if, again, you're exercising gentleness with yourself, nurturing yourself, taking care of yourself, and doing that in a thoughtful way, that you are able to move forward and in a much calmer, gentler, more relaxed way, that things don't feel so explosive or chaotic or like conflictual all the time, that it can be peaceful. And I think maybe that's what you're not seeing, and that's the perspective that you need to expand on. Is I think up until this point, maybe you've thought that I always have to get angry. In order to get what I want, I need to get angry. People don't listen unless I get angry. And that's not true. People do listen, and there is a calmer, quieter influence, which is, again, another lesson showing up here with Parvati. There can be a calmer, gentler, more peaceful way and still get good results. I think it's just that you don't know how to do it. And so this is a big learning for you. Again, I'm looking back at this number 11, which, as a reminder, this is a master number. So I think there's something that you're ascending beyond here. Like it's going past the number 10. It's going into new territory. So already I'm looking at this like wilderness outside of this city. Is that the city is what you know, and then going out into the wilderness, this is new territory. It's untouched territory. It's wild. It's different. And so go slowly. That's also the difference between the dance of Parvati, this Lasya, and Shiva's dance, is that hers is much gentler and slower. And so it's like, go slowly. If you're going into unknown territory, go slowly and be gentle with yourself. And you're going to find a different way to get what you want out of the situation and get that support. You don't have to be angry to do it. And so I think that's the big lesson here. And I was also just thinking too, all the number 2s that were showing up for me here. Sodalite, again, it's balancing heart and mind, balancing intuition, which I always think of intuition as emotions, and emotions occur because of the body. And so it's like body and mind have to be balanced. And so I think you kind of need to find that balance here. I wish you all the best, pile number one. I hope this reading was helpful. Again, if you like the decks, if you want to look at these, I put the links down below. Also, be sure to click and follow, subscribe to my channel so that you can see more of these readings in the future going forward. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hey, pile number two. I'm really excited about your pile in particular because I love this gold stone. I mean, this is stupid and kind of a little girlish of me, but I love the glitteriness of this stone in particular. And it sort of matches. I have little glitter tips on my nails. It kind of goes with that. This is a great stone too. I feel like the orange really kind of embodies the sacral chakra, which has a lot to do with feelings and intuition and like gut feelings as well. But also sometimes can be used for solar plexus, which is all about like moving forward and taking charge. And the gold stone in particular, I mean, its name alone, I think kind of says something that is great for attracting wealth. It kind of reminds me of money or being really glitzy and glamorous and kind of opulent, if we want to use that word. So I feel like this is a good indicator of where your reading is going, is that this likely has something to do with money, which is a little bit too of what pile number one was all about. So this should be interesting. Before I even flip this card over, looking at it, we've got these like moon symbols on here, but also you have this eye, and it's like radiating out from this eye, and it reminds me of intuition and like the third eye and having that sense of inner knowing and following your intuition, and also seeing, like having a vision and seeing a path ahead of you. So that might have something to do with your reading as well. Let's flip it over and see. Ha! Not even surprised. I mean, I should be surprised, but I'm not. And this is kind of cool. I mean, this reading is for Leo season, and we've got this giant sun behind her, and it's just like bursting out at you. Endless abundance. So I mentioned this might be about money. Now I really feel like this is about money. And not just money, but it's also like feeling energized by what you're doing to make money and feeling like you're enjoying it and that you could keep doing it all day. You know, it's like it's not a dreary task for you to do whatever that is to make money. And so maybe that's the goal, because I'm also noticing she's looking up and there's a light above her head. I'll pull that card up again. So there's something above her head. It's not quite that she has it, but that's where she's looking towards. And so maybe that's the goal, is like you want to find your place doing something that you can make money at, but also feel really fulfilled by that it's like you've got endless energy, almost like the sun, that you've got this endless energy to like keep going at life. Which, you know, if you've got a really great job, that can help a lot. And I'm feeling right now, I mean, with that, I'm talking about endless energy. There's something interesting with depression that I feel like I should say, is that I think sometimes for people who have depression, or even people who have anxiety, they might also have both at the same time. That there might be periods where they feel like they're extremely anxious and then super depressed. And so I think that energy regulation is maybe also something that you should think about, is that you can't go all the time. It kind of needs to be like a steady flow, because if you're stressing yourself out in these bursts, you're going to need a period of recovery. And so you're going to be kind of down and needing some rest for a while. I kind of feel like already that is something that is coming up in my sense here. Let's look at this one next. Ooh, romance. And the number 2 showed up a lot in pile number 1. I don't know what it is with that number today. Let's see, and we've got Venus in Taurus, romance. And this could be taken a few different ways. I don't think it necessarily has to be like romantic love. I know that relationship readings and love readings are really popular. I tend to stay away from those a lot of the time because I think there's more that's always going on. Even in relationship readings, there's always more going on under the surface that has more to do with you than it has to do with like the other person all the time. But with this one here, Venus in Taurus, I mean, Venus is very comfortable in Taurus. That's one of its domiciles. So I think this has more to do with like wanting to feel really comfortable, wanting again to feel like you're loving what you're doing and that you feel energized by it and that you feel comfortable because Taurus, and particularly Venus and Taurus, they want to feel like they can relax, like they can be comfortable, like their surroundings are really nice. Like if they're gonna do it, they want to do it well, and they want to feel like they can enjoy themselves and that they can be comfortable. So whether that's like you want to be comfortable while you're working, you want to feel like it's not overly stressful, again, like not overexerting yourself or becoming overly anxious, that you can keep that steady state flow of energy, but also that you're enjoying what you're doing. And this also it does make me think of relationships, but more so like that you're just comfortable, like in your home relationships, family relationships, work relationships, that you're drawn to that and that you feel comfortable being there and that it feels nice. It feels like warm fuzzies. So let's keep that one here. Saving this one for our last piece of advice. We'll just kind of keep that set off to the side. Make sure we've got enough room here. And I did this with the last set of cards. I'm just going to lay these down like this. Another ace. Pile number one also had an ace. They had the Ace of Swords. This one here a little different. Oh, and you know what? Ace of Wands. This kind of looks like Jimi Hendrix. I don't know if the creator of this deck intended that. But Ace of Wands, looking like Jimi Hendrix. Taurus, or Taurians, anyone who's born under this sign, if you have this as your sun sign, the throat is kind of the body part that Taurus rules, the throat and the neck. And it's said a lot of times, particularly if someone has Venus in Taurus, which is a very creative aspect, to have that placement, that they have wonderful voices, like either very melodic or hypnotic or like just nice, pleasant voices to listen to. And when this guy popped up and looks like Jimi Hendrix, it made me think of music and being creative and expressing yourself creatively, because Ace of Wands can also be going after a creative pursuit. So if there's something that you're really fired up about and you feel energized by, and it's like, oh, this is like a passion of mine and I really want to pursue it, it's likely to be something creative, and it's not like your regular desk job. So it might be performing, it might be poetry, something to do with writing, something to do that you are expressing your own unique voice. So it's a very positive card to have, very creative card. And it might also be, again, like what you're trying to create this abundance around and have energy towards, and being able to have that steady state of energy that you're putting into this project. And maybe even trying to make money off of it, whether it's just like a side gig or you want this to be your full-time gig. Definitely something creative. It's a little off the beaten path. It's not like your regular kind of job. And I'm also looking at this World card. Ugh, got a little tongue-tied there. The word success is popping out. But also, I mean, just the image, like having the world in your hands, feeling like it's not the world that's pushing you all the time, that it's you that's kind of like directing your own path in the world, is the feeling that I get out of this card. Because especially, like I said, the feeling I got at the beginning of this reading is that if you're someone who feels overly anxious and then kind of needs to like take a rest, like you sort of need to collapse and take a rest for a while because you're just overly anxious a large majority of the time, that it can kind of feel like the world is running you ragged. It's like there's just this constant pressure coming from the world that like you got to get this done, you got to have this job, you got to make this amount of money, blah blah blah. And so it's like the world is running you, but I feel like you kind of want to run your own world. And you also want the world in your hands. You want to feel like you can control your own path and your own destiny, and you can do with it what you want. Um, but also, there's another piece of this that it's like doing some good in the world as well. That there's a feeling with the world card that's always like benevolent action. It's not just having it all, it's that you also want to feel good about what you're doing and that what you're doing is serving the world. And so I think that's a large driver behind what you are trying to accomplish here, pile number 2. 10 of Cups. Nice cards. And pile number 2, like I said, I was excited about this reading. I'm even more excited about it now. You have some really nice cards popping in here. Let's get that out of the glare so you can see it. 10 of Cups. I mean, again, it's just like all sunshine and rainbows here. But especially we see a family here. And I'm also seeing this person who's kind of off to the side, this one child who's off to the side. That maybe you kind of feel like, ugh, I wish I could have that, but I feel like almost like I'm on the outside looking in. And again, it's like feeling like you're not in control or that you can't have this. You can, actually. There's something about being in the family and having those relationships, and I think wishing that you have some of these relationships and connections, or maybe even you wish you had the time to deepen these connections and have that kind of enjoyment out of your life. That's also a driving factor going on here. Is like, again, you want those relationships, but relationships do take time. And if it's the world that's running you and pushing you all the time and controlling how much you're able to give, then it's kind of like you can't have this. You feel, again, like you feel like you're on the outside looking in. So yeah, I think it's a great motivation. I think you're going to get there. I mean, the Ace of Wands is also a card of success, as is the world, that like you're going to have all of these things. But there's something that needs to change here. And this will be a good time to pull in our... This is actually the same image that's on the backs of this entire deck is also on the front. So interesting. The Beta of Spirit Wolf. The first thing I think of is actually of my dog. Naturally, wolves are a type of dog. But one thing I notice every time that my dog and I are on a walk, she goes between these states of like hyper alertness. So let's say she hears something, there's a noise out in the trees of wherever we're walking, or she sees something move, and she goes into a state of hyper alertness. But then she also is very able to kind of quickly transition back out of that hyper vigilant energy and go back into states of relaxation or just like calm enjoyment. And then whenever there's another noise, then she's like right back at that vigilant energy again. So I think dogs, and animals in particular, cats also do this as well, is that they regulate between those two states pretty well. Unless there's something that's gone wrong or a traumatic experience, they can regulate those states pretty well. And so I feel like maybe, again, like regulating between those flows of energy, looking at the sun again, that it's like a steady state of energy. It's not burning itself out too quickly, or, not burning brightly. It's kind of always at this nice median. Is that maybe you need to figure that out? Like, how do you need to balance being like attentive and keyed up and like energized and ready to work with also being able to relax? Because dogs do also sleep like 12 to 14 hours a day. They're very active and they're very fun and playful and can have a lot of energy, but they also sleep a lot. So I feel like sleep is maybe also something that you need to think about. And beta, that's actually the brainwave that you need in order to be focused. So I think this is really important for you, that it's like you need to figure out those waves of energy and pay more attention instinctually, like almost at the animal level. Like don't overthink it, because dogs don't overthink it at all. It's like they do what they feel when they feel that they need it. It takes a lot of training to get them to not just act on instinct, and to pay attention to other things. So I feel like you almost kind of need to tune into that instinct and pay more attention to your body states. Like, when do I feel like I need to rest? That means that I need to go rest. I shouldn't ignore that feeling. If I feel tired, that means I should sleep. That means I should go lay down. That you just need to get really instinctual and almost like animalistic about it. It's like, don't second guess it or overthink it. If you feel like that's what you need, go do it, because it's probably true. And then I think that's probably how you're going to end up regulating yourself to be able to maintain the energy level that it's going to require to work on this project, whatever it is, this creative project. That I think the more you sleep and the more you rest, that's going to give you the energy to move this forward. So I hope that helps. Again, I think it all looks really good. The fact that you've got this gold stone, which is a good indicator for money, and like all these other cards are great indicators for money and happiness and building that kind of life that you want. So I think it works out, but again, like there's just some work that needs to be done with regulating yourself. So take care, pile number 2, get lots of rest, drink lots of water, and if you enjoyed the reading, please subscribe. Excuse me, so you can see more readings like this in the future. And until then, bye. Hey there, pile number 3. I don't know if you guys can hear it in the background. My dog is snoring pretty close by. She is really enjoying her nap. So you may hear a little bit of that in the background. Hopefully it's not too distracting. To me, it's kind of cute, so I'll just continue enjoying it. First thing I want to talk about, and I mentioned this with pile number 1, I think I forgot to mention it with pile number 2, but the crystal, to me, always is kind of the opener to the reading. I read this as if it were an additional oracle card, and your crystal in particular, pile number 3, is aragonite. This formation, because the aragonite comes in a few different formations. This one I think is called Sputnik, but it's kind of this little sunburst sort of formation. To me, it looks like it's exploding outwards. Kind of like a supernova is what I think about. And I felt like I wanted to pair it with this sun card, that again, there's like another sunburst coming out of there. But aragonite is actually a grounding stone. So even though its appearances right now are really explosive and kind of like high energy, I think aragonite is really good for being able to ground those energies and make them a lot more practical or like steady, rather than it being like kind of chaotic and explosive all the time. That it helps you ground that energy and channel it into something more productive or something that isn't so chaotic. I think it's also good for healing childhood wounds. Like if you're going back in time and trying to think through your childhood, that it gives you some stability to sort of like pull you back to those early formative years. And so that might be something we want to think about as we go through this reading. But I will set our little Sputnik aragonite over here. And let's start with this sun card. Or sorry, what is the name of this one? The Oracle of the Radiant Sun is this card. It's the deck that this card is from, I guess I should say. We've got the Sun in Aries. Aries, again, is a very like defender, combative type energy. We've got the number 1, so that again, it's like very assertive. This card can't get more assertive than this. And this person kind of reminds me of the Knight of Swords. He's going out to slay the dragon, and the Knight of Swords is definitely a person that like rushes in, wants to fix it, like let's take on this challenge sort of thing. but might be finding themselves in situations that are a little precarious or dangerous or heated. Like things might get heated up really quickly, which is reminding me again of this stone, that things can turn explosive pretty quickly. And this is also a dragon, so it's like that fire can come out any second. You don't really know what this dragon is going to do. So it's like proceed with caution would be a good phrase for this card, but this person is clearly not exercising any caution whatsoever other than the armor they have on. They're kind of just jumping in there and trying to slay the dragon. So I think there's something going on here with maybe flare-ups of emotion or conflict. Oh, that accidentally got flipped around. We have the King of Swords here face up. King of Swords. All right. I want to see these other two tarot cards. The Tower and the Star. Interesting. So I mentioned the Knight of Swords here, and the Knight of Swords tends to be a figure in tarot that's, like I said, kind of explosive, kind of brash. They just rush into the situation head first. Like they don't even think about it. It's like guns out and blazing. They just go for it. The King of Swords, though, is a little bit more mature. So I think there is maybe some evolution of maturity here in how you handle your reactiveness to situations. Because the King of Swords is a lot more balanced. I mean, here we've got the word detached. It's kind of like they're able to take a step back and think about it. It's like it might be a great idea, but it also might not be a great idea. So like, what's the right thing to do in this situation? And still very powerful. I mean, he's still got a sword. He could still take that out to go fight with, but he's more choosy about how he wants to use that sword. So there's some wisdom, I think, here that is coming about or that needs to be gained, perhaps. And I'm also thinking about the Tower, because the Tower traditionally in tarot is ruled by Mars. It's actually called the Will of Mars. And again, we have this like explosiveness and chaos and this like, you know, kind of seeming like it's coming out of nowhere that the lightning strikes. So again, I'm getting this feeling of like reactivity, that there's a certain element of explosiveness or energy that's not grounded. It's also making me think of the lightning and thinking about the aragonite stone grounding energy, that your energy maybe in the past has been pretty ungrounded and kind of chaotic and wild, and now it's time to sort of rein that in and get a handle on it and be able to control that energy and put it where you want it. The Star. I mean, this is already making me think that like it's somebody in the spotlight and somebody who's getting attention, which is all, I mean, Leo season is all about attention because Leos love attention, and not necessarily always being in the limelight, but they do enjoy positive attention for the things that they do well. And I think that's maybe something that is driving you, pile number 3, is that you do want attention. You want that recognition. You like kind of rushing out to save the day. And maybe that's in your job or like in your home life. You like being a little bit of the hero. But if you don't do that in a reasonable way and you like are throwing all your energy out there or maybe making snap decisions or snap judgments, I don't think it's necessarily serving you all the time. And so you might not be getting the recognition that you would actually get more often if you approach things in a more reasonable way, more measured and thoughtful. So that's something to think about. I'm also looking at the word tranquility because the Star card, both in this decks and in other decks, can also be kind of the peace after the storm. I don't think it's any coincidence that the Star is the card, like if we're going in order down the major arcana, the Star actually does numerically follow the Tower in our Fool's journey through the major arcana. So I think that's also significant as like, there's some calm after the storm and it's like being more peaceful, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Um, also realizing what went wrong too. And sorry, I'm having a thought right now that I think this applies. It's kind of like this is how I'm reading it. It's almost like your wisdom that you're gathering out of this situation is only coming after the fact. It's like after there's already been chaos and destruction and things went wrong, that's the point at which you're able to kind of settle down and see what happened and consider it thoughtfully and peacefully and like be able to like figure that out. It's almost like you're pushing yourself into these situations, pushing yourself into these conflicts or obstacles or challenges in order to force the lesson to be learned, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like you feel like you need a push in order to learn some of your life lessons. And so I feel like there's this like back and forth between constant chaos and then like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what happened. And so the wisdom that you're drawing out of this with this King of Swords, it's kind of like you're only able to reason or think clearly about things when you have these two contrasts. The unfortunate thing is that this is not a great dynamic to be in all the time. It's okay to have some of these like chaotic times or big challenges occasionally, but if they're happening all the time, that can be really stressful. So that's the first thing that I'm thinking of when I'm looking at this pile number 3 is like, you kind of need to stabilize, and that's where this crystal is coming in again. It's like you need to balance the two sides of that. You don't always need the chaos in order to draw the wisdom out of that. Let's look at this. Oh, that's a pretty card. And the funny thing is, this one, by contrast, looks very different to the whole rest of your reading. That also stands out to me. I don't know if you can see it, but along the side it says create and express. And in the background, we have like this water here that looks very calm. She's, casually playing her guitar. And the word create is standing out here, and it's making me think of the star, because the star is also in a traditional deck. I'm talking about like the Rider-Waite deck. You have a figure who's standing over a pool of water, and it makes me think of this card here. This kind of like rebuilding after the storm, that like once all this destruction has happened and like, you've had this big conflict, it's kind of like, how do I rebuild after that? And that's also the lesson of the star, is like being able to approach things from a fresh perspective and to look at things anew. And again, to like see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's like you see the stars in the distance and like, oh, okay, like that's my goal. And to create is like, you kind of have to create something different going forward. And I feel also that this card is kind of bringing up feelings of like forgiveness, that it's like people make mistakes. And I think you have made mistakes, if I'm being honest, pile number 3, because of the way that like you've pushed yourself to learn certain lessons in your life by shoving yourself into chaos, or even like maybe helping create the chaos in order to force the solution and like the realizations that follow all of that. You might have created some pretty messy situations, and I think that's why I'm thinking of like forgiveness with this card, is like there's a washing away, especially with this water I see here. There's like a washing away of all of that needs to happen, that things can be rebuilt, they can be created again, but maybe not in such a harsh way this time, that like a more stable way is possible. And approaching things without feeling like you have to force the lesson to happen, or that there always has to be some kind of turmoil for you to create a solution to something, might not be the case. Like you might be able to find solutions without always having to run into the middle of danger, if that makes sense. Like there's a more reasonable way, a more wisdom-filled path. So let's look at this card here, the Theta of Venus. Theta is making me think of brainwaves, and this came up with pile number 2 as well, that like beta is a very keyed up kind of energy. Theta, I'm trying to remember what theta waves do. Give me 1 second here while I look really quick and remind myself what theta is. I mean, just from the image, I'm pretty sure it has something to do with resting, but I want to be sure. Yeah, so theta is like restful waves. It's where your brain can really take a break. And I'm also, I mean, Venus, people always think of love, but this feels more like it's internal to me because I don't see an external figure in the card. It's more like she's kind of like gently wrapping herself in her own arms. It feels like there's a certain amount of self-love that is lacking at the moment. That I think part of the reason like you're so willing to shove yourself into these situations where like you're encountering chaos or danger or tumult and conflict, it's almost kind of like you don't really care enough about yourself to avoid the danger. Like I said, most people would see this dragon and turn and run. And you're like, no way, I'm going in there. And that can be a great quality to have. But if you're not careful, you'll end up ruining yourself or getting yourself hurt, possibly killed. So I feel like the theta of Venus is kind of saying like, give it a rest. Like you can rest and you don't have to constantly push yourself like this. And maybe you need to take a pause to just like love on yourself a little bit. Because also this figure over here, and even the King of Swords, like swords seem very aggressive. Like it's externally focused. It's like going after something. You're using the sword to defend yourself against a threat. And we see that especially here in the assertion card. But here, like there's no threat. And it's very different with both of these cards, and even this star here is like, there's no threat, actually. You might have imagined that the threat was there when it's not, really. And so I think if you attune more to your inner world and like your own inner feelings and kind of like calm those brainwaves down, calm that energy down, go into rest mode more often and connect to yourself internally and learn to kind of love yourself. And sometimes I hate throwing that phrase out because it sounds way easier than it actually is. But like really, if you're centered in yourself, and again, this stone is great for centering and grounding, but if you're centered in yourself and feel at home in yourself and feel like you can rest within yourself, I think there's going to be less and less of this feeling that you need to like go out and conquer or that you need to go fight the beast, so to speak. Is like, there's no threat really, and you don't have to create those challenges in order to make things happen. You can also create and express in a lot calmer way without all the conflict. And again, we see that with these 3 cards sort of forming up here. So get some rest. Pile number 3 is kind of what is coming up. And that was also, a lesson for pile number 2, I think, was getting more sleep. But I think this is more so just like spending quiet time with yourself. And so whatever way you need to do that, if that's like singing, if that is writing in a journal, however you want to express yourself, I think you should do that and reconnect with what makes you you and find some of that inner enjoyment and inner restfulness and be at home within yourself. So I hope that helps. Pile number 3, that is your reading for today. If you want to follow and subscribe to my channel, please do so. There will be more readings like this going forward. Also check out my website. If you want to book a one-on-one reading, I am definitely open for that as well, at least for the time being. And again, I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.